Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. And once again, welcome to our Team Engagement Live session for today. For those who haven't joined us before, I'm Noelle Smit. I am the CEO and co-founder of Teamgage, the only engagement tool that puts teams first. And today I am thrilled to be joined by Sarah Leo. Sarah has over 20 years of experience in business management and has her Grad Cert BA from the University of Adelaide. A recipient of the Industry Leaders Fund Scholarship in 2018, Sarah is also an active member in the business community, operating a leadership book club, I'll have to ask you about that, and facilitating forum group sessions for the Family Business Association of Australia. Sarah has also held several board and committee roles. With a passion for leadership, Sarah steers the Resonate Consultants team to meet the strategic objectives and uphold our core values. So welcome, Sarah.
Thank you. Thanks for having me today.
It's a pleasure. And I just want to give a special shout out as well, because for those watching, Sarah is a little bit unwell today and she showed up. So thank you for making the effort, and bear with us if she's warned she might start coughing. So
I might break out in a cold sweat or start coughing. So.
we will forgive you for that. Thank you for coming to share your experience. So we might jump straight into it as we usually do, because the 20 minutes does fly by. So you're the CEO at Resonate at the moment, and not that your job's on the line, but held a wealth of roles in your experience today. But if you could maybe tell us a little bit about the culture at Resonate. And I know we've spoken before about you think of it as client first, but in order to be client first, you have to be team first. So maybe if you can tell us a little bit about that culture.
Sure. Resonate have got a very trusting, flexible workplace. And in terms of the culture fitting with I'm trying not to cough at the same time. Just in terms of the culture, we have a very trusting workplace, building on what the founder started with about going back 11 years ago, and wanting to be client first. So that client first philosophy actually was driven from wanting to do good work as well, and wanting to be valued for what they do, and being able to deliver without barriers of paperwork and lots of bureaucracy in place. And so it was all driven from that same place of wanting to achieve what craftspeople want to do, which is deliver good product to their clients. Yep. And from my end of things, how does being people first connect with that? I think from a sensing perspective, of course, you need to be able to look after the people that you are expecting to deliver well to clients, and for them to be healthy and for them to be at the top of their game. And if you're not a sensing person and you looked at it scientifically, I mean, it's the same as if you wanted to drive your car on a family holiday. It's not going to get you there if you don't service the car. So depending on how your leadership lens is, I think from all angles, it doesn't make any sense not to be focusing on your team and making sure that they're looked after and they have all of the resources they need and the wellbeing tools that they need.
Yeah, I think that's a really good analogy as well, which I haven't heard before. But thinking about, it makes a lot of sense with a car that we have to maintain it, we have to service it, we have to make sure it's full of fuel to make the journey. It's actually a really helpful way to think of ourselves and our teams as well. So I'm going to drill a little bit deeper on this team first, because I know you do some really interesting things there, certainly around you've said even making sure they're healthy. Around how do you make sure that you maintain or allow people to maintain balance in their lifestyle? Maybe you could share about, I know you talk about your fitness commitments during the week and interacting with work. So how does that work?
Sure. So I think, again, going back to that flexible workplace, which was in place, but before I was the CEO, but maintaining that flexibility, because especially in the fields that we're in, can be long days, there can be out of hours work, it's irregular. And so it's being open to that thought that we're all responsible adults here, and we know what we need to do to be able to operate well. A Resonate have a wellbeing allowance, so an annual allowance, which was a wellbeing allowance, which we've extended to be a sharpening the saw allowance, using that Stephen Covey approach to anything. That it doesn't have to be just fitness or sneakers or a gym membership. Some people use it, club membership, dragon boat racing and things like that. But we've now extended that to cover also those spiritual aspects. It might be that you want to do an art class or pottery, something that will help you bring your best game to work because you're fulfilling your whole self. That could be also go towards healthy meals, house cleaning, whatever it is that you need. So we offer things like that along the journey as well. And we've had, the usual team games. Someone in our Melbourne team organised a step challenge to see who could walk the most amount of steps in a month within each state, just to try and bring everyone together. And we've had games online to where everyone, a bit like you nominate someone else the next day and they have to come up with something. So today's the third day, so on the third day you have to do 3 push-ups or something like that. So we've tried to bring games into reminding people to stay well. And we've also recently brought in the Headspace app as well. And so that helps. It certainly helps me to sleep. I go to use it every night to go to sleep, or if I wake up in the middle of the night thinking about something, it's really helped as well. So
they sound like awesome initiatives. I don't know if you saw my face light up when you said use it for house cleaning as well. As a working mum, that's really valuable. In terms of allowing us more time to rest and valuing that as well.
Fantastic. And I think even for you said as a working mum, but for working men these days as well.
Good call.
And often, if people without children, careers are so full these days and life is so full that if there are things that for you don't float your boat. I remember listening to Katrina Webb one time talking about that, and cooking wasn't her thing, and so that's okay. Like, just have a look at what you can't fit into your day and your week, and outsource it if you can. So I think that's a great philosophy.
Awesome. We've just had a comment saying from Matthew Bliss that he tries to run a push-up challenge every year, and everyone gets a lot out of it. It brings it brings everyone together. And yes, good call, Ben Smith, that men do household chores too. I'm sorry if I sound like you don't. I was simply talking from personal experience, but
absolutely.
Yes, good call. So I have a question then around, like, those initiatives sound awesome, and it sounds like there's a lot of connection. It's not being driven solely by you. You've got people, like you said, like someone interstate running an initiative for the other states as well. How do you keep that momentum up? Like, do you find that you have to sort of remind people or prompt people, like, or is it self-sustaining, and how is it self-sustaining?
I think I would say at the moment we haven't had many of those activities for a while, other than using the Headspace app. So it's certainly not self-sustaining, and you do need to be able to remind people or share resources at different times, share information, keep that front of mind for people, and remind them that that's the culture. It wasn't just a flash in the pan thing to do to tick a box. That is what we want. We want people to look after themselves. So you do have to keep working on it and have it on your agenda all the time.
That makes sense. And I think it's a good reminder that if we're maybe not seeing those things happen, that if you're a leader, maybe it's time to just go and remind people or make some suggestions and prompt that. So one of the things then I want to ask, you obviously allow people to fulfill personal obligations during the traditional work week. That requires a lot of trust and confidence in each other to do that. Can you share a little bit about how you got started with that? If there are people here today going, I'd love to get to that point with our team, but you know, we maybe have a bit of work to do to get there. What do you suggest people could do to start building that trust and confidence in each other?
That's a really big question. I don't think I'm not going to be able to come up with some great solution to that. I mean, as I said before, there was already a flexible culture when I started at Resonate, so I can't lay claim to having built that foundation of trust there. I would say, though, that it's all inclusive. So it comes from, I think, your recruitment process as well, and making people aware of the culture that they're coming into. Resonate don't have timesheets. There are some interviews online from our managing director who talks about that approach. So the entire culture of Resonate fits around trust. And yeah, I think from recruitment and explaining that, because people can be wowed by the thought of no timesheets, and yet also it can be a very new thing to come into and have no framework. You have to be able to self-manage, self-regulate as well.
Yep.
And work out when you're over-delivering or under-delivering. So we do talk about that in the recruitment process. And we talk and we look for people who have those humble, hungry, and smart values that Patrick Lencioni talks about in his books.
Yes. Yep.
So and one of my favorite books that talks about an open culture of trust, which goes well beyond what Resonate are currently doing, but Powerful by Patty McCord from Netflix. So it talks about the culture within Netflix. And so I think even just to read materials like that and get a feeling for what's possible, and then just scale it back to what works for you today, and then just start with that trust process. And then if anyone isn't fitting into that framework well, if it doesn't work for them, then that becomes a professional development discussion. Just talk about how that you can amend things to suit them if it doesn't work for them, being so flexible. How can you help them to work within that culture, or is it not working for them, being so flexible they prefer a much more rigid approach to the workday? So
that's a great answer. And I think maybe afterwards we'll when we share the video and the replay of this, we might reference some of those books, because I think it's The Ideal Team Player by Patrick Lencioni as well. And because I think I love reading more quality books that help on these topics. We've also had a comment here. May I contribute? Absolutely. Small practical things we can do. So allow connective talks before a meeting. I'm assuming that's like what we'd call small talk, small chat, allowing space for that in a meeting. A piece of good news to share on a daily basis, encouraging side hustles and sharing their passion. I think they're all, additional things that we can do. Really good. Thank you, Catherine. And of course, if anyone does have any questions for Sarah as we go, do feel free to post them in the Q&A or the chat, and I'll try to see them and get to them as well. So one of the things I wanted to ask you about was communication flow within your teams and between your teams. How do you go about maintaining that, especially if people have flexibility around their work hours and where they might be during the day?
Absolutely. Slack is our best friend. So we use Slack all the time to be able to monitor. People indicate we have an automatic pop-up which now comes up the night before, and we'll ask people when they plan to be in the office tomorrow to help people collaborate, because now with the hybrid situation of working from home or working in the office, we were finding often people would come into the office and they were one of two or three and they didn't get that chance to collaborate. So we've got that popping up beforehand, so it gives people the chance to indicate where they're going to be. And then using Slack as the tool to say, by the way, I'm offline between 10 and 11 today, I've got a dentist appointment, or I've got to take the dog to the vet, or whatever comes up. I'm now picking up the kids from school, I'll be back online afterwards. So that constant transparent flow of when you are and aren't available, and we just trust that people know what their jobs involve and that their jobs get done at the right time for them. So
And do you still use email internally, or is it purely Slack?
Very rarely. If we had received some material via email that needed to be shared with a couple of people, that's usually when we would use email. But I would say 99% of the time it's Slack. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. So you mentioned before, and so I want to just come back to it about hungry, humble, smart, and that sort of tagline from the Patrick Lencioni book. So for people that maybe haven't read that, or even if they have, I think it's a really good one to refresh on.
Yes.
Maybe if you could talk to us about, you use that criteria for hiring. So what does that mean, and how do you apply that during the hiring process?
Sure. I'm going to give away all my tips to all the people who are interviewing them. I know. So the humble, hungry, and smart. You need to read the book, I think, to get the full. I can't sort of take on Patrick's whole philosophy in one answer, but humble being that you don't necessarily take all the credit for the work that you've done. That it's about the team. You can sometimes pick that up by the use of the word we. Not always. I mean, it's not that scientific, but so when you're interviewing someone, you can just pick up things around their mannerisms, that whether they are, I don't know, if you're out having a coffee with someone, whether they acknowledge the person who's delivering the coffee, those little things that you can help determine whether they're going to be a team player. And then the hungry being driven. So whatever that is for them and whatever you need it to be in the role. So driven to do their best, whether that's in an innovation sense, passionate about their work, wanting to bring their best self. So looking for different ways of identifying that hunger in them and that self-drive. And then the smart being not IQ smart, but being people smart. So conscious of other people, being aware of interactions and being able to read people and have a look at their, to change their approach depending on who they're speaking to, all of those types of things, because in a team you need to be able to understand that there won't always be people who operate the same way as you. So I mean, that's it in a nutshell, but read the book.
And do you prioritize that over skill, or when you are recruiting someone, are they non-negotiables, those behavioral traits, or how do you approach it from actually assessing the recruitment people during the recruitment?
That's a really good question. In our field, you need to be a professional, so usually a mechanical engineer, or so you have to have that skill level in our field. So it's a little bit it would be wrong for me to say that's the only tool that we use, because that's not correct. We do in a business support sense, that would be the overarching criteria that I'd be looking for. And in a previous role that I was in, where they didn't necessarily require skill to the same level as having a university degree, then I would definitely have been prioritizing that as well, because then people are teachable and they can pick up things on the go. They can collaborate with team members are prepared to train them. So it's a much easier flow, much better fit within a team.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, we're almost out of time, and I do want to give a chance for the wrap up, but look, is there anything else, I guess, give you the opportunity here around, you talk about, that team first culture, how powerful that can be. Is there anything else you'd like to add that we haven't covered?
Oh gosh, that's a big open question. No, other than I would say, if we're talking about either culture and leadership, so for the people, anyone who's in a leadership role online today, I'm assuming most people or aspiring to be, just that it's an ongoing process. It's not something you can go and study at university and that's it, you're now a leader. Just continue to immerse yourself in learnings and observations and look for those opportunities. So I encourage you to stay engaged somewhere with someone and keep growing.
I think that's great advice. I think you never kind of, I think with leadership, you never sort of get there. Box ticked, I'm now a leader. You're just constantly learning and the world's constantly changing and we have to level up again. So I think that's really good advice for everyone. Look, we've got some great comments there. Hopefully you're all reading them. I probably can't read them all out with the time we have, but thank you for sharing that. Thank you so much, Sarah. I know that
Most welcome.
you're not feeling so well, so I really do appreciate you making the effort to come and share your knowledge with us today. I think you guys have a really exciting culture at Resonate, and I think we'll share those books as well, because I love a good book recommendation. We've got some feedback we've posted a link to in the chat. You'll also get a link to provide us some feedback on email, so please do share your feedback. We love hearing it. We want to constantly improve here as well. So let us know any thoughts or tips you have for us. And once again, thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you.